Palestine has beyond doubt proven itself worthy of membership of this organization. In contrast, Israel continues to breach international law, defy UN resolutions, as well as vilify and malign the United Nations and its officials. Israel's actions, which each passing day inevitably raise our doubts if it actually believes in the UN system and values its membership in this organization. The offensive gimmick of shredding the UN Charter we witnessed in this chamber last Friday is just another example of Israel's utter disrespect of the United Nations. The carnage in Gaza must stop. The international community must demand proper accountability processes, starting with thorough, transparent, and independent international investigations on all breaches of international law, including possible acts of war crime and genocide in Gaza. The fundamental United Nations founding principle of equality among nations must be extended to the state of Palestine.
I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Malaysia.
Mr. President, my delegation thanks you for convening today's plenary meeting following the joint request by the Arab Group, Non-Aligned Movement, and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Malaysia aligns itself with the NAM and OIC statements and adds the following remarks in its national capacity. Mr. President, after more than 7 decades since the adoption of General Assembly Resolution 181 in 1947, which partitioned Palestinians' land into Arab and Jewish states, Palestinians continue to be denied their right to statehood. In contrast, Israel was accepted as a full member in 1949. Since then, the world has been witnessing turmoil and bloodshed in the land of Palestine. For 7 decades, Israel's illegal, brutal, and inhumane occupation has dispossessed Palestinians of their lands, properties, rights, and dignity. It has taken the lives of countless numbers of innocent men, women, and children, and continue to do so to this day. The current hostilities in Gaza are the latest episode in the already long history of Palestinian struggle under Israeli occupation. After about 7 months of relentless Israeli military onslaught, more than 35,000 deaths have been recorded, about 70% of whom are women and children. That is nearly 15,000 children and 10,000 women killed. The discoveries of mass graves in the compounds of Al-Shifa and Nasser hospitals are deeply concerning. The numbers of deaths among humanitarian workers and media personnel have also reached new records. The level of destruction of civilian infrastructure, including schools, hospitals, and UN premises, is unprecedented. The unrelenting destruction of Gaza and catastrophic humanitarian condition of its inhabitants are downright appalling. And despite warnings of disastrous humanitarian consequences, Israel remains adamant to mount a ground military assault of Rafah. The carnage in Gaza must stop. The international community must demand proper accountability processes, starting with thorough, transparent, and independent international investigations on all breaches of international law, including possible acts of war crime and genocide in Gaza. Mr. President, the question of Palestine must be resolved once and for all. Israel's occupation must end. Justice must be restored. The self-determination of the Palestinian people must be upheld. The fully sovereign state of Palestine must be recognized. For those of us who still remember the misery of life under occupation or colonization and the bitter struggle of our forefathers for independence and statehood, it is our responsibility to support Palestinian statehood. It is our collective moral duty to do everything we can to ensure that the State of Palestine take its rightful place as our equal in this august chamber. The fundamental United Nations founding principle of equality among nations must be extended to the State of Palestine without any discrimination nor further delay. Malaysia's support towards Palestinian statehood and its membership to the United Nations is long-standing. We hold the view that the admission of the State of Palestine as a full member should have happened when General Assembly Resolution 181 was adopted and Israel was admitted 75 years ago. The resolution adopted by the Assembly last Friday is a significant step forward. It is a much-needed positive development in the face of the Security Council's continued politicization and paralysis. The adoption of the text by an overwhelming majority is a clear testament of the enormous support for the Palestinian statehood within the international community. Malaysia shares the view that the State of Palestine meets the 4 criteria for statehood outlined in the 1933 Montevideo Convention. We also firmly believe that the State of Palestine fulfills the conditions for membership to the United Nations as laid out in Article 4 of the Charter. Palestine has consistently demonstrated that it is committed to peace, even as Israel persists with its brutal and oppressive occupation, continues to erode its territorial integrity, and attempts to annihilate the Palestinian people. It is also clear to us that Palestine highly values the opportunities to participate in UN processes, and it is able and willing to carry out obligations enshrined in the Charter. Palestine has beyond doubt proven itself worthy of membership of this organization. In contrast, Israel continues to breach international law, defy UN resolutions, as well as vilify and malign the United Nations and its officials. Israel's actions, which each passing day inevitably raise our doubts if it actually believes in the UN system and values its membership in this organization. The offensive gimmick of shredding the UN Charter we witnessed in this chamber last Friday is just another example of Israel's utter disrespect of the United Nations. Ironically, it is Israel's credibility that is being shredded to pieces through their contempt for international law and norms. No cheap theatrics will ever deny the resounding support for the resolution, as well as the enduring relevance of the Charter's principles and aspirations. Mr. President, assertions that the State of Palestine does not meet the criteria for membership set forth in Article 4 of the UN Charter are absurd and quite suspicious. Such allegations are blatant rejection of General Assembly and Security Council resolutions that have recognized Palestine as a state. To date, 144 members of the United Nations have recognized the State of Palestine, and several countries have announced their intention of recognizing Palestine in the very near future. We encourage those who have not officially recognized Palestine to do so without further delay. Mr. President, the question of Palestine has remained an outstanding issue in this organization for more than 7 decades. It is high time that the UN deliver on its duty and responsibility and produce a just, lasting, and peaceful solution to the question of Palestine. This should start with the recognition of the State of Palestine, based on the pre-1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as its capital, in accordance with the internationally recognized two-state solution. We, the independent and sovereign member states of the United Nations, must not renege on our commitment to uphold the United Nations principle of equality among nations. We must not fail our Palestinian brothers and sisters in their struggle for self-determination. We must not forget, most of us here were once in their shoes. Palestinians too deserve to live in peace, to develop, and to prosper. We shall not and must not succumb to the pressure of those who seek to undermine peace in the Middle East. We call on all member states to be united and support efforts towards lasting peace in the Middle East. The full membership of the State of Palestine of the United Nations is a critical step towards this end. Malaysia stands ready to be part of and support initiatives aimed at realizing the inalienable right of the Palestinian people to freedom and self-determination. I thank you.